Hello beautiful bookish people, my name is Hannah and today we're going to be doing a book review. But not just a book review, but also a book comparison. What does that mean? Well, in order to tell you, I'm going to tell you a quick story time. I was walking the shelves of my favorite half-price books when I stumbled upon this bad boy. And if you don't know, Kiera is pretty well known for her selection series. So imagine my surprise to see a self-published version for her Siren. So I began to do a little research, and it turns out that iUniverse is a publishing house that you pay the publishing house in order to publish your works, in the hope for a more traditional route or a traditional publishing house would find you, and that's exactly what happened to Kiera. And as far as I know, I believe Kiera rewrote the Siren when she got a Harper deal, and then they published it a couple years later. So 7 years after this guy was published, Harper published a revamped version of the story. So as these two books lay in front of me, I began to wonder what changes might have occurred when you go from a non-traditional publishing house to one of the top 5 publishing houses in the world. What edits do they change to the story? How significant are the changes? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the question I'm going to be answering today. At least, I thought it was, until I sat down and read them and quickly realized that this book review would turn into a rant review. But before we get started, here's just a little history on sirens. So traditional sirens come from Greek mythology, and they're very beautiful yet dangerous creatures that lure men to their death via a beautiful song. They are said to be the daughters of four seas, one of the sea gods, and their mother being a music muse. The earliest description of sirens described them as nymph-like creatures with wings, actually. I didn't remember they had wings either. But don't feel bad about it, because neither did Shakespeare. He often used the term siren and mermaid interchangeably, which, as we know, is not true. Sirens being half man, half bird, and mermaids being half man, half fish. But moving on, probably the most notable story comes from Homer's Odyssey. In the story, the sirens are said to live on an island near Scylla. Odysseus has his men put beeswax in their ears while he is chained to the stern of the ship. Odysseus becomes the only character to hear the siren song and survive. In an alternate version, the story has a prophecy that if anyone should hear the siren prophecy and survive, then the sirens should die. And keep that in mind for further reference when I talk about this puppy. A quick summary of this book before I jump into the comparison and spoilery section, in case you don't want to be spoiled or something. This book tells the story of Kaylin. I'm gonna say Kaylin, a siren in her 80th year of serving the ocean. You see, the ocean has this rule that if she saves you from death, then you have to serve her for 100 years. So our girl Kaylin is a good portion into her servitude when she gets upset at the ocean at something and runs away. And that, ladies and gents, is when our love story begins to take place. So if you want to know what I thought about it, well, I'm not a fan, to say the least. I thought it had a lackluster plot, pretty severe insta-love, clunky dialogue, and a plot explanation that doesn't make sense. And believe me, the list goes on. But I want you to know I did have good intentions when I picked up this book. I thought this video was going to be an expose of how editors can change their books and make them more complex and better. But no, that is not the case, but instead we get a book rant with comparisons. So grab a snack and watch me smack the fact
that your writing is denser than a Big Mac.
So I'm going to tell you what happens in this one so that I can tell you what they changed. in this one. Believe it or not, I actually did enjoy the beginning of this story. I thought it was intriguing and mysterious, and I thought it had some clever lines as well. You get to know the other sirens and how they become sirens and why the ocean chose them. You learn that the ocean uses sirens so that she can feed, because she gets hungry for some reason that's not explained. Which comes to my first pet peeve about Kiera writing, is that she personifies the ocean in this book. So the sirens can literally talk to the ocean, which I honestly think I would have been fine with if it had any more lore or mythology involved in it. But in this story, the only thing that uses mythology is the name Siren. There's no inspiration from the old folk tales or anything like that. But I think if she had drawn more from the fairy tales or the mythology from the stories that it originates from, I wouldn't have minded. It's just she uses the name Siren and that's it. So we start out this book with Kaylin being saved from the ocean, and the ocean uses the simple explanation of it was always inside of you. And I have it in quotation marks because that's literally what it says, which would be fine if it referred to destiny or meant to be any other time in the story. But from my notes and other times the ocean picks a new siren, it just seems like happenstance or circumstance. So yes, I think destiny can definitely play a part in your story. You just need to build up on it and not just use it one time and then throw it away. So fast forward 80 years and we're walking the streets of Paris and Kaylin is complaining about being a siren. So a couple chapters later we're introduced to the love interest. It's very Little Mermaid. We just see him from the ocean and we admire how cute he is. And as you know, we're sirens, so we can't speak, otherwise we would kill him. So Kaylin has found a loophole and starts teaching at a death school. One of her favorite students is named Jillian. In literally the same chapter that Jillian is introduced, the ocean calls the sirens to feed, and Jillian is on the boat that they sink. And we're supposed to feel sympathy for her, as if this is a bigger story than it actually is. But from where I'm sitting and where I'm reading the story, you can't introduce someone and kill them that same chapter and expect me to feel something or even care that Jillian died. I don't know her. I don't know what she's about.
She doesn't even go here.
And that is the reason that she runs away from the ocean. She's on the beach and the same boy that we Little Mermaid stalked is comforting us. And I know, it's convenient, but blah, blah, blah. We haven't even gotten to the best part yet. His name is I Can Lie. Or if you're from the South, I can lie. I bet Kiera wants me to say a Kenley. That sounds like what she wants. So this is where the cringe and problematic elements begin to take place. And blah blah blah, cringy dialogue, and boom, he invites her to spend the night at his beach home. I feel like I need a problematic siren, so this is the best I could do.
Warning!
Problematic siren. I didn't even mean for that to be a pun. I don't know, maybe I've watched too many true crime stories, but my first thought is he's going to murder and rape you and sell your bones to the cemetery. We are then introduced to Ben, Akenlai's older brother, who does the sensible thing of trying to call the police until Kenley convinces him not to, which is just awesome. Kaylin uses a piece of paper to try to communicate because if she speaks, she will literally kill him. We have a get-to-know-you conversation with our love interests where we learn their favorite colors, season, and we also find out that the Kenley's parents are dead. Because why do we need our love interest to have parents that will just bog down the plot anyway? Am I right, ladies? We want our love interest to not only have dead parents, but also conveniently empty beach houses. A guy named Evan is introduced, and I don't even really want to talk about him that much because he's introduced, finds Kaylin attractive, And that night he tries to rape her, and Kenley comes to the rescue, and that, boom, starts our romance, which is just great way to kick off any romantic encounters. And then woohoo, the next date we go on a date with a Kenley. It's almost like we had no trauma after being sexually assaulted or anything like that, which is just amazing. He takes her to eat lobster, and she doesn't know what a fork is, so we're really going for the Little Mermaid vibe here. And after dinner, a Kenley wants to go swimming, and we both know that we can't go swimming, otherwise the ocean will call us and we'll be in big trouble. So to solve the solution, we just dance on the beach and have our first kiss, say I love you, and a Kenley asks her to stay with him forever. Yay! And after they finish kissing, a Kenley said something that legitimately made me question his validity as a character. This is a quote, a direct quote from a Kenley. Just because we kissed a lot, well, you're not bound to me or anything. What? You sure as hell believe I'm not bound to you? I just kissed you for a second. Where did that even come from? It made me so mad to read that I was like, Kaylin, I don't even care that the ocean is punishing you or is gonna punish you. I want you to get away from him because he does not make me feel comfortable. And I don't know how many times I can say stranger danger without losing the effect. And again, we are questioning Kenley's why he's our love interest, because he comes home and says, you just look beautiful when you sleep. He watched us while we slept. We're having a great romance. It's been about a week since then, and he takes us to the grocery store at Kenley, and we're having such a good time in the grocery cart. He's pushing us around that we laugh. I know. So a Kenley crashes our cart into some lobster tank or something like that because we spoke. And he was like, oh, I don't know what happened, just something came over me. And you know, your girl Kaylin knows what's happening. Which is weird because I don't know why Evan had the desire to rape her and a Kenley just had the desire to hit her. You would think that there would be consistency there, but I digress. Kaylin begins to doubt and feel guilty about running away from the ocean as expected. And to make it worse, a Kenley's ex-girlfriend comes to the picture who has no depth, no personality, and his only purpose here is to be the ex-girlfriend who's coming into plot being, I want my ex-boyfriend back. But a Kenley rejects her, of course, because we got this new death girl involved in our lives and we just can't take her back. And that brings the scene that maybe confused me the most. She takes a bath and the ocean starts to talk to her for the first time, which begs the question, has she not been bathing? It's been a week. She must stink. So Kaylin wants to stay with a Kenley for a year and fake her death, which I think is a horrible idea and is just extending the fact that he's going to get hurt from this. And the ocean explains, well, this has happened before, and they both die at the end. Adam. She becomes the prodigal siren and returns to the ocean on her own will, and the next chapters are just filled with crying about a Kenley and missing him and blah blah blah, and it's really boring. And after a year, Kaylin has come up with a plan to see a Kenley. She's going to be on a cruise ship so the ocean can't detect her and go back to, it's either Florida or Maine, I can't remember. So she asks the other sirens to help her out, and they have no motivation except for the fact that they want to deceive the ocean. So Kaylin gets back to his house, and you thought a Kenley was a creeper? Get ready for this. Kaylin climbs the house to the roof so she can look through a Kenley's window and watch him strip. I wish I was kidding. So the next day, she hasn't said anything to him. We're just literally watching him. He goes fishing. Oh, I forgot to mention he's a fisherman. And Boom, he hits his head and falls into none other than the ocean. And without a shadow of a doubt, our girl Kaylin jumps in to save him, and the ocean begins to be like, honey, how did you get here? Kaylin begs and begs and begs and begs and begs. You must save him so that my one true love can live forever, and I'll serve you 1,000 sentences and blah blah blah. And she is able to save him, but the ocean is furious. The ocean takes Kaylin to some island that I've never heard of and puts her in an ocean jail. Not kidding. And the ocean brings the other sirens into her jail and tells them, we need a vote because Kaylin has broken one of the rules. They can vote either A, we can kill Kaylin, or B, kill a Kenley, or C, we can add 50 years to her servitude. And the next part I liked. I don't want you to think this is a completely negative review. I will give Kiera Cast the credit. I did like this resolution. Aisling, I'm gonna put it here so you can see what it is, steps up and says, I'll take the extra 50 years. Why? Because she said she's been lying to the ocean her entire servitude. The ocean has this rule, no mother, no wives, but Aisling has been breaking one of the rules because she has a daughter. I genuinely think that's a good resolution. I will give credit where credit is due. But we have another problem. When a siren turns back into a human, they forget everything that happened to them when they were a siren. So what does your girl decide to do when she turns back into a human? She decides to write on her hands, I am Kaylin and he is a Kenley. Tell you the truth, I don't know how, maybe octopus ink, but she washes up on the beach and a Kenley finds her. I know, convenient, but what else do you expect at this point? He says, I never forgot you, of course, because that 1 week that you spent with me changed my life forever, and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then the epilogue happens and they're getting married. So now we get on to the Harper edition and what they changed and what they didn't change and what I wish they had changed and all that good stuff. So we start out pretty much the same way. Kaylin is rescued by the sirens in the ocean. Except for this one, we don't get any backstory. I think it's interesting to note that in the Harper edition, there are a lot more tropes than the self-published edition. For example, you have a lot more I'm not like other girls tropes. I read books and I scrapbook. I don't think I'm pretty even though I'm a siren. But in this version, we actually meet a Kenley on page 23. And I'm assuming it's to save the letting a stranger into your house fiasco that happened in the old one. So they phone flirt and he asks her to go on a date and they bake a cake in his dorm room. And after the date she says how magical it was to be normal.
I want to be where the people are. I want to see.
But after that we have no further contact with him because Kaylin begins to feel guilty. So in this version the sirens are called to crash a wedding, literally and figuratively, and that's what triggers Kaylin to run away, which feels weaker to me than in this one where she knew someone who died. I think it could have been built up more, and if we had known Jillian for longer and we had gotten to know her, it would have been a better climax of why she ran away versus a wedding just feels weaker. So of course we bump into our love interest because without him we would have no plot. And I'll say this situation is better than in the old one because he actually knew Kaylin and didn't completely let a complete stranger in, but it was just one date and it still feels like a stranger danger situation. So blah blah blah, they get to know each other and they go out on a date and they kiss and she literally says, wow. The ocean calls him to die, and which happens a lot sooner in this one and in the other one, which again feels weaker than the old one. In the old one they had a week, in this one they have one date. But now I can skip for the next 80% of this book because, in my opinion, nothing interesting or anything to advance the plot happens until then. So Padma, who is another siren who had a crappy childhood, her father tried to kill her and that's why she became a siren. She wants to seek revenge on her father for trying to kill her, which serves as better motivation of why they would help Kaylin than in this one. And we soon learn that Kenley is sick. And we learned that Kaylin is sick too. Why? So apparently, if you hear a siren's voice and you survive, then you become deadly sick. And the same goes for if a human hears your voice and you don't kill him, then you become really sick, which I'm assuming is the inspiration from the Odyssey, which is what I told in the beginning of the video. So this is what I'm talking about easy resolution. We figure out that all we need to do to save Kinley is Kaylin needs to become human and speak her voice. And if they had not personified the ocean, a lot of cringy dialogue could be cut. A lot of trying to talk to the ocean about what's happening to me would be cut, and it would, to me, make for a better story. So in this version, all 3 sirens volunteer 50 more years of servitude to save Kaylin. And they all live happily ever after, but you don't get a wedding scene. And probably the most annoying part of this book is the end. They tell me how to say her name. It's a mixture of Caitlin and Ellen. And I'm just like, I've been struggling here, like 300 pages, Kiera Cats, and you're gonna tell me how to say her name 3 pages from the end? That doesn't help me, Kaylin. So in conclusion, they fix some things, but they make other things worse, and I'm left with this book feeling disappointed. So would I recommend it? I would have to say a big fat no. But a lot of things could have been cut, a lot of things could have been made better, and in my opinion, not enough was solved from the self-published edition to make this any better. To make a long story short,
Too late.
I would not recommend it. Thank you for watching. I hope I didn't offend you too much, and I'll see you next time. Keep reading and all that jazz. Oh, off to a great start, Hannah. Kiki, do you love me? Are you sorry? You wanna do it with me? Can we excuse me, sorry. I'll edit that out. Oops. Ah! Look how cute you are. Sitting on my couch yawning like I'm boring you. I love you. That sounds really mean. I might have to edit that out.